Hey, what's going on, guys? Coming at you with my Columbus Regional deck profile / tournament report of my Trickstar Windwitches. I unfortunately bubbled out yet again on getting the regional top and getting my Nats invite. I ended up 48th place, where the top cut was top 32. It was a little over 200 people, which is pretty small for a Columbus Regional, but you have to keep in mind it was a Sunday. It was taking place in a very zoo-infested meta, and a lot of people were kind of frustrated with the metagame and with the fact that we hadn't gotten a list yet. And lo and behold, come today, we got a ban list, and Zoo is pretty much dead, at least as far as being a tier 1 deck. True Draco's got a bit of a hit, and True King Dinos are probably dead as well. So it's kind of interesting because the Columbus Regional yesterday, while there was some innovation and there was some interesting decks there, there was a couple interesting tops. I think there was a Chain Burn deck that actually got either top 8 or top 16, which is pretty awesome. There was a Zoo player that got second place that I actually faced in one of the rounds that was playing free Block Dragon, which was a pretty neat idea. And there was a lot of other different decks out there. It was, for the most part, a very Zoo-infested metagame in Columbus. 5 out of the 8 rounds, I faced some kind of Zoo variant, 3 of which being True Draco Zoo and 2 of which being Pure Zoo. I went 4-1 against all the Zoo variants. My only loss was to the guy that got second place with Pure Zoo, and he's actually a guy that, from what I know, actually ended up making it to Worlds back in 2013. He's a guy that goes to Top Tech Games up in Bethel Park, and I've met him and dueled him a couple times. He's a really, really good player. It was a really, really tightly contested match where I was 200 points away from 2-0ing him, and then he board-bowed me for game like the following 2 games just to wreck me. So that happens sometimes. So as I said, I was 4-1 against True Draco Zoo. My other win was against Royal Chalice, who that was Tyler Allen Andrews, who works at my local card shop, Galaxy Games, and he's just an awesome dude. Really good. Not only Yu-Gi-Oh player, but just card game player in general. He's a card game connoisseur. I mean, he plays like everything. And then one of my True Draco Zoo wins was Chris Thorne in the first round, who I've profiled a couple times on the channel, and it's just a really solid player in general. He also just missed out on topping as well. He got 64th place. So, yeah, as I said, those were my 5 wins. My 3 losses was to the Pure Zoo guy that I just mentioned, to Pendulum Magicians. And that game was kind of interesting, or that matchup was kind of interesting because, what was it? Game 1, I just blew him away. I think it was with Burn FTK or the Draw and Lock. I can't remember. Game 2, he just kind of outgrinded me. He was able to Utopia my Crystal Wayne and win. And then game 3, I set up a decent board of Lycoris and Reincarnation and Candina in hand, and you do some decent things. I Reincarnation him after he searches a good card, but I think I gave him a godly hand off the Reincarnation because he was able to spin, Pendulum Summon 4 or 5, spin my Lycoris with Castel so that Reincarnation can recycle it back to Chop Block, and he got in exactly 8,000 damage per game. And keep in mind, this was where he did this per game when I had the OTK in my hand next turn with a board wipe plus, Trickstar spam shenanigans. So, that's just sometimes how Yu-Gi-Oh goes. And he was a really awesome guy, so, nothing bad to say about that. So I started out the day 1-2, ended up winning the next 4 rounds, and I went into the last round knowing that if I won, I was for sure going to get the top and was finally going to achieve my dream. And again, this was another really tightly contested match, 3-game match. Game 1 just completely blew, or game 1 he went first. He set up a really strong board I couldn't get over. Well, it was actually a really grindy game because I was able to chip away at his life points pretty hard and get him down pretty low, but he eventually was just able to power through with the power plays of Dinos and win. Game 2, Crystal Wing won me the game going first. He just had no way around it, and every time he tried to search a Kaiju or some way around it, I had Reincarnation or something like that. And then Game 3, or a hand trap. I think I resolved 3 or 4 hand traps in that game too. Game 3, he goes first. He sets up probably one of the most broken boards, turn 1 boards that the True King Gangzing Dinos can set up. You have the Denlong, you have the Counter Trap, you have Ultimate Conductor Tyranno on board. And of course the Denlong can then float into Herald of the Arclight. So you just have like 2 negations and like 3 or 4 ways of like disrupting your opponent. I did have the board wipe in hand, and I had like 3 light stages and a Candina to try to bait out his negations. I was able to get 1, but I could not get him, I could not bait him out on the second negation to be able to use a Dark Hole effectively, and that ultimately was what proved to be the difference in the game. If he took the bait on 1 more card, or if I had another board wipe to go with, I definitely would have gotten that game. And as I said, I just missed on topping again, which is really soul crushing, but it was a really fun day. I'm really happy with how the deck performed, and I don't feel like I really made any terrible mistakes with it. And I just absolutely love the deck. I feel really comfortable with the deck, and I'm really confident about the deck going forward. Although I will have to make some adjustments because this deck was completely designed to wreck Zoo, which it did for the most part throughout the day. But now that's probably not going to be an issue, so I'm going to have to adjust to the new meta with like True Draco and whatever else. So I'll get into the deck profile. Not talk much about some of the card choices, but more talk about how certain cards did throughout the day, and then what changes I may be making going forward. And I might as well start now because I've been rambling for 6 minutes on this freaking tournament report. So Trickstar monster lineups, standard of course, a free Candina, the free Lycris, and then the 1 Lilybell. Lilybell was actually pretty clutch a couple times as for its toolbox effect, and I did actually poke for game with it a couple times, so I definitely wouldn't cut in the main, although it is a card that if I need something to side out, it's a pretty easy side out going into games 2 and 3. For the Windwitches, we have the free Ice Spell, the 2 Glass Spell, and the 1 Snow Bell. A lot of people talk about cutting this engine from Trickstars, but I really liked how it performed throughout the day. No complaints about it. At least at this point, I would not cut it. Once we get some better Link monsters with Circuit Break and some of the future sets, I may consider going towards the Eater of Millions and more of the stun-related builds, especially when Spiral, just the nutty Spiral deck with all its support comes out. But until then, I really like the Windwitch engine. Indestructible Crystal Wing is really good, and the amount of advantage and burn you get off of this engine is really good as well. For hand traps, we were playing the free Joel Lockbird. I only pulled off the combo once or twice to just trash my opponent's hand. But this as a hand trap was actually pretty good with all of the True Draco Zoo that I faced throughout the day. And then if I had seen it against Pendulum Magicians when it was relevant, it would have been really good as well. So definitely would not play any less than 3 in the main. Free Ghost Ogre. Really glad I decided to main Ghost Ogre over Ash Blossom. As I said, this is absolutely wrecked Zoo. This was one of the biggest reasons why I was able to 2-0 Chris Soren round 1. That and board wipe, so Ghost Ogre is really good. And then finally the 1 Max C. As far as hand traps are concerned, I may try to squeak in Ash Blossoms from the side into the main. I may possibly consider Honest, now that I have a little bit more space to work with Dark Hole going to 1 and some other cards I may change, but we'll see. And of course, I'll do an updated deck profile at some point with all of that. So of course, we have the triple Light Stage and triple Terraforming. I'm actually really happy that they didn't hit Terraforming. I was expecting it, but definitely not complaining that it didn't hit it, because having 6 copies of Light Stage is just nuts. It's really good bait. It's really good for searching. It's really good for adding the extra burn, which can sometimes help your OTKs, and also the the bait doll effect. Freezing the back row for a turn is actually really good. Being able to freeze Solemn Strike, Solemn Warnings, any problematic back row for a turn is just too good. The free Chain Summoning, really broken card. Kind of iffy on this card after the event. It's not necessarily that the card was bad or that it bricked too much for me, but it's just that at free I somehow didn't see it enough to really know how good it was. Obviously, if you pull it off, even with the Windwitch engine, and if you have a Candina, it can be really good because you can set up Crystal Wing and then just get a bunch of searches off of Candina. But well, that and it sets up your burn FTKs, but it can clog. It's an easy side out card going to game 2 or game 3. And I did most times side out at least 1, if not all 3, going into games 2 and 3, which is good and bad in a way. You shouldn't, main deck a card, thinking it has the benefit of just signing out games 2 and 3, but it is one of those, similar to Joel and Lockbird, just one of those win more or auto win kind of cards if you pull them off. So I may keep them in temporarily, but this is like one of the first cards I'd be thinking about cutting because it can clog, and it is one of those cards that gets sided out a lot. Two Pot Desires. There were a couple times where I banished some cards that, you know, were kind of detrimental to me, but it is a really good draw card. I don't think I'd cut it because this is literally the only draw card you can play in this variant of Trickstars. So, yeah, I definitely wouldn't cut the Desires. And then we were maining the 2 Dark Hole and 1 Regeki because, as I said, it was a very zoo-infested meta at Columbus, and these were really, really good throughout the day. Really good. The best part, honestly, about the board whites was the fact that, as I said, I really only pulled off like the Joel and Lock combos and like the Burn FTK combos a couple times. A lot of my wins actually came off of like, you know, massive battle damage, even OTK, you know, level battle damage, because I was able to clear boards and then just like span the board with Trickstars and just go in for damage. So that was actually really cool because a lot of people caught a lot of people off guard with Trickstars. Most people thought that it was just a deck that burned, a deck to rip your hand. You know, in this case, a deck that makes Crystal Wing, but you know, the spamming ability of Trickstars is actually pretty underrated, along with the battle damage. And then for the traps, we were just playing the free reincarnation and the free disturbance strategy. Reincarnation, obviously, just a broken card. Disturbance strategy was pretty good for the most part. Gain an extra burn in, disrupting your opponent's searches, and then obviously boosting the consistency of the burn FTK and the draw and lock combos. But similar to chain summoning, this was an easy side out going in games 2 and 3. It was always at least one, but most of the times all 3. So this would be another card that I would consider cutting to make space for other cards, but you know, we'll see. So that is the 40 card main deck. For the side, we have the 2 Ash Blossoms. I did side this in for, I think I sided in for World Chalice, sided in for the True Draco Zoo, and then I sided in for the True King Yang Zing Dinos. It really only came up against the Dinos, mostly because I just didn't see it all day, to be honest. But yeah, Ash Blossom's obviously a really good card. Going into this new meta, I'm going to try to make room to main at least 2, and you know, maybe just still do the 2-3 Ghost Ogre. But yeah, I mean, Ash, just a really good card. One of the MVPs for today was the Kaiju Engine, the 3 Kaijus and the 2 Slumber. Because I'm playing Pod Desires and because of how much the set gains advantage, I'm actually considering making space for a 4th Kaiju. Because there was a situation that came up where, like, I hard drew 1 Kaiju, banished the other Kaiju off of, you know, Desires, and then didn't have the ability to fully resolve Slumber in my hand, which can be detrimental. Luckily, I still won the game, but yeah, I definitely would consider playing the 4th Kaiju just because I do play the Desires. Well, what am I saying? I should say that I would do that if Slumber didn't just go to 1. So, you know, disregard everything I just said there. Even at 1, I might still do the 3 Kaijus and 1 Slumber. Or just do 3 Kaijus, honestly. But, you know, we'll see. There's a lot of brainstorming I have to do. And I still have to wrap my head around this list because there's a lot to it, honestly. And then for back row removal, we have the 3 Cyclone and then the 2 Twin Twisters. I am kind of glad that I decided to put in the 2 Twin Twisters last minute. It was good for hitting multiple back row. And you know, there's some cards that you don't mind discarding, like Reincarnation or Trickstar, that you can bring back off of Reincarnation. And then Cyclone was really good for the True Draco decks that I ran into throughout the day. And then finally, the free D Barrier. Really good card against Zoo, but I never really saw it. Well, I saw it a couple times, and it was relevant maybe once, but yeah, it didn't really do much throughout the day. And it's probably a card that will get cut now that Zoo isn't really a thing. And I don't really think it's that relevant against any of the other you know, meta decks going into this new format. So yeah, this will probably get cut. So now to wrap it up with the extra. So the Crystal Wing engine was the 2 Crystal Wing. The 1 Clear Wing Fast, 1 Original Clear Wing, and then the 2 Winterbell. Now I can actually cut down this engine since you know, the Earth True King Lithosagem got banned. That was the only reason why I played so heavy this engine, was, you know, out of fear of, you know, them like taking a Crystal Wing or taking one of these off of the Lithosagem and then just not having my Windwitch plays. But I'll probably, now that that's gone, cut a Crystal Wing and cut a Winterbell, So I do like the versatility of having like the option to either go into fast or clear wing. They're both good cards in certain situations. And in the clear wing, the biggest thing with it is that it's a generic level 7. So if they like pop something midway for your Windwitch combo, you can still make this with the Glass Spell, the level 4 tuner, and a Lycris. And then for other synchros, we have the 1 Omega and 1 Stardust. Decided to cut the Holly Angel last minute for this. It never came up. There was one time where I kind of missed the Holly Angel, so I may put that back in, to be honest. The Stardust has come up a couple times, and it is a pretty solid generic level 8 synchro. For rank 3s, it's the Nightmare Shark and Break Sword. I'm trying to think. Don't really think I went into any like the rank 3s or rank 4s throughout the day. I'm trying to think back. There was one time where I was in a position to possibly Nightmare Shark for game, but I had another way to get game that was easier than Nightmare Shark, so I don't think I actually made any of the Xyz in here, but they're just the best, rank 3, rank 4 Xyz for this deck, that you can go into sometimes. They have come up for me sometimes, and here we have the Castel, Utopia, Lightning, Heartland Draco, and the Tornado Dragon. So that is it for this very long video, mostly the tournament report, but also the deck profile, and some slashed-in thoughts going into this new format. There's a lot of brainstorming, as I said, I have to do, with this deck, because as I said, this was completely built to wreck Zoo, and now that Zoo's not a thing, I'm going to have to adjust it more for True Dracos, so that may, as I said, include cutting some of the cards I mentioned, like the Servant Strategy and Chain Summoning, and main decking Kaijus, maybe main decking the Cosmic Cyclones, and just adjusting the side deck here and there for what I anticipate the new meta will be. It is really disappointing that I bubbled out yet again when I was like this close to finally achieving the dream and getting my invite to Nats, but it's early in the regional season. With my job, I work weekdays, I have a consistent schedule, I'm off weekends, so I have plenty of opportunities from here to earn my Nats invite. There's actually a regional coming up this coming Sunday that I will be going to, and there's also an OTS event on the 30th of September that I may get to go to, that both have opportunities for Nats invites. So, maybe I'll get it one of those 2 times. But yeah, that's the whole video. Might as well wrap it up here before I make this any longer than it needs to be. It's already at 17 minutes. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, remember to like, comment, subscribe. Leave me any thoughts you have in the comment section below about the new ban list, about Trickstars, about what you're thinking about with your build going into this new meta. So catch you guys next time.